Hey there everybody and welcome back to another episode of Northwest Craftsman. Recently I brought a new Rockwell Delta Uniplane into my shop, which has a beefy 1 horsepower motor and a belt driven spindle on it, and one of the problems I've been running into is that it keeps on popping the breaker on startup, and it felt like it's been really sluggish all the way through. So today we're going to go through the debug diagnostics and what it looks like to replace the startup capacitor, because that's a pretty cheap solution that might be the thing that fixes your motor. Alright, let's get started. Okay, so before I go much further, I also want to caveat that all of this that I am not an electrical expert in any way, shape, and form, and if you're uncomfortable with electronics, make sure to contact an electrician or just take this to your local motor shop. They should be able to fix you up and diagnose what's going on just fine. Okay, so with that out of the way, here's what everything looks like when it's disassembled, and the startup capacitor is located usually in this little tiny wart that sits right up here, and I have it taken out right now, but you have both of the leads on the terminals right here, and then you just have 2 screws that keep this guy down. You may have an alternate configuration or another configuration, but basically what happens is this startup capacitor acts like a defibrillator for this motor when it's cold and dead on start. So when you want to turn it on, it releases all of the energy in that capacitor and shocks the motor into life, which reduces the overall energy needed by the circuit to drive it. And this is one of the symptoms that you can see when it's really sluggish getting started up, because your circuit is having to provide all of the startup torque in order to get this guy running, which requires a lot of current. I actually threw my ammeter on the breaker out of the box and read it as taking something like 60 amps at the most, and given the amount of startup time it was taking, it was like the 10 to 15 seconds before it actually got up to speed when it would get up to speed. That's a lot of current for a lot of time on a 20 amp breaker. So I'm going to go ahead and replace this guy, and we're going to see how well it works. Also, as a note, when you're wanting to replace one of these, this is what the old one looks like right here. You want to check to see what the rating is on it. In this case, it's a 413 microfarad capacitor rated for 110 volts AC. You really want to make sure that whatever you get is matching what you have over here. And so in this case, the closest one I could find was a 378 to 454 microfarad capacitor, and that's about as close as you can get. You'll notice that these things have a pretty wide range on them, and as long as you're close to what you had on your original one, you should be fine. You don't want to go way under or way over. Way under, you're not going to see anything, and way over, you could kill your motor because you're dumping too much energy into it all at once. So really make sure that you're trying to match these, and then also be really careful when you're working with capacitors. The 2 terminals right here have been safed. I made sure that they were discharged. Go find some good videos online about how to discharge those. I'm not an electrical expert, so I'm not about to try and do a tutorial on how to discharge these, but make sure that they're discharged. Even the brand new ones that you get, it's possible that somebody returned it charged and they just never ended up discharging it before they sent it to you. And capacitors can do a lot of damage if you lay your finger across the terminal. So discharge those safely before you start working with them. I'm going to take no credit for how to do that safely. I found a way to do it, but I don't want to lead any of you guys astray, so do your research on that. Anyways, one of the cool things about modern capacitor technologies is that they're way smaller, or much smaller than they were previously. So hold on as I one-handedly get this guy out. So you'll notice this old capacitor compared to this new capacitor, it's a lot narrower and about the same height. So this guy's going to fit just perfectly on the inside, and it's got the same terminal style, so I should just be able to plug this guy straight in and see if we get their motor started right. Okay, so here she is, all installed and ready to go. Belt is tensioned and everything looks like it's connected up properly. So we're going to go ahead and give this a boot up and see if we can get her started without her exploding, dying, or blowing the breaker. So you know why that didn't work? I was being dumb and thought that I checked everything, but alas, my belt is not on the pulley. Let me fix that and try again. There, much better. Well, it worked for one try, but I think it still pulled too much current because it still popped my breaker when I tried it a second time. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a shot just to cool down after popping that breaker the first time, because I think it's just barely pushing my wiring a little bit too much. And I got to do a little bit more research. If you have ideas for what could still be popping my breaker, go ahead and leave your comment in the description below. I would love to hear from you. But yeah, otherwise, startup breaker, that's like 12 bucks. So, I mean, it was a troubleshooting step that saved me a little bit of time. Maybe not in this case, but we'll see what ends up happening in the future. So if I find a solution, I will make sure to share it with you guys. But if you are popping the breaker, this very easily could be your issue. Go ahead and find a new one for like 12 bucks. And it's a pretty quick and easy diagnostic step. So thank you guys for joining me. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to keep working on this guy and see if I can't figure out what's going on. So have a good one. Happy woodworking. Bye.